if I'd have died, I'd have gone to hell in a minute.
Right.
Somebody asked me, they said, if you go over there and die, are you going to heaven? I said, I don't know. I hope so. Now, you are not going to believe this one. I told my sister, if I ever go back to church, to a church, I said, the ceiling's going to fall in. So we get to the church, and it seats about 250 people. It's a good-sized church.
Okay.
And a whole quarter, the back quarter of it, is blocked off because ceiling tiles had fallen down. Yeah. So
Thank you, Brother Bittner.
Well, praise the Lord.
But go on. I'm sorry. I just had to stop you and say that's a hero. I don't care who you are.
It's just my privilege, and I wish I could have done more.
And that's something. But you were stuck there 12 months.
12 months
in country, but on that base.
And we never got mortars, but we got rockets. Now, rockets are mortars on steroids, okay?
Right.
And we would get them a couple times a week, always on the hour or on the half hour in the middle of the night, okay?
Wow.
And so by the time you heard the siren go off, they were coming in.
Yeah, it's on its way down.
So there's a siren for incoming rockets and mortars, and there's a siren for a ground attack. And you really didn't want to hear that one. Because that was, I mean, you could hide from, I mean, but if they hit it, we had hooches. A hooch was just 2x4s with mosquito net on them, okay, and they had, the roof was tin held down with sandbags. I mean, it was as basic as you could get.
Right.
And so in April of, I went over in the Vietnam in April of 69. And I got back in April '69. I got back in April of '70. Well, around the end of March, early April, just before I'm getting ready to leave, we got hit 26 nights in a row with rockets. Okay?
Oh my goodness!
And this was on the hour.
It's exhausting.
Three or four times a night. Okay, and so we had bunkers. We built sandbag bunkers, and you could put 6 guys in it. And they were big and high, and we had a roof on them made out of tin and stuff. But if it was a direct hit, we're all dead. Okay,
yes.
There was no helping a direct hit. If it hit outside, the sandbags were thick enough to where it would keep you from getting killed from the shrapnel.
Absorb it.
Okay,
yeah.
So one night about 3:00 in the morning, I saw a bright flash, and let's say we're on this section. There was a group of hooches. Then there was an open sewer, probably 15 feet wide and 6 feet deep. It was an open sewer. We called it the quag. And that on the other side of the quag was another whole set of hooches. Well, this incoming came in from their direction and landed a direct hit on the hooch.
Oh my!
So there was about 8 guys in there.
Oh my goodness!
That shrapnel came right through that hooch and into our hooch.
Oh my!
So we had bunk beds. There was 8 of us, and I had a guy on top of me, and I was on the bottom. And when I saw that flash, I threw myself on the floor, and the guy on top of me threw himself on the floor.
On top of you.
On top of me. I thought he broke my back.
Right.
Okay. He just, and because when he hit me, the shrapnel came over us. I don't think it was more than 15, 16 inches over top of his back. Over top of his back. Well, I thought he got hit.
Right.
So when the shrapnel went by, I jumped up and turned him around and called him by name, and he was okay. But I was afraid he got hit or killed, maybe.
Right, he was just right above you.
So that was the one night that for sure I got no business being here.
Right.
Okay. That I know was a night that God
spared your life. Oh my goodness.
So anyway, I won't go into I just didn't do anything exceptional other than the fact that I tried to do my job.
You were there to do it.
Okay. So when I got out of there, I remember I had 4-year enlistment. So by the time I got out of Vietnam, and I'm lost as a goose.
Right.
I'm drinking. I'm immoral as an alley cat.
Wow.
God help us. if I'd have died, I'd have gone to hell in a minute.
Right.
Somebody asked me, they said, if you go over there and die, are you going to heaven? I said, I don't know. I hope so. And I come back, and my best friend was a state trooper. And so then that's what I had on my mind to do next.
Right.
So I still had about a year and a half left on my enlistment. So I would come home, and they sent me back to Cherry Point when I came back from Vietnam. And it was pretty close to where I lived, about a 5-hour, we called it a swoop. It was a 5-hour drive if you're running 80 or 90, okay?
Wow.
I mean, all the way. I got tickets going 90 mile an hour. I had a 67 Camaro. I won't get into that.
Say that you had a 67?
Yeah.
That's the first year they made them.
Yeah, I believe it
Woo,
is. Yeah,
my goodness.
It was a 327. But anyhow.
327, wide open too.
So anyway, I would come home and ride with this buddy of mine as a state trooper.
Okay.
Okay.
Doing a ride along.
And I was really in shape at the time.
Right.
Okay.
Fit, strong and fit. And you're no small man. You're
well,
big, strong man.
I was bench pressing well over 350.
Wow.
You know.
Oh my goodness.
385 I did one time for 3 reps.
Wow. Good night, almighty.
No, that's the best I ever did, but that was what it was. And I weighed 245.
Oh man.
So I'm just saying I was fit. Okay. And when I was getting ready to go in the state police, I had a year and a half in grade as a sergeant E5. They were going to give me a $10,000 reenlistment bonus and automatic staff sergeant.
Wow.
All I had to do was sign the paper.
Right.
So $10,000 back in 1972 was a lot of money.
Oh, it's a lot of money now, but there's a ton of money.
If I'd have done it in Vietnam, it'd have been tax free.
Oh,
they offered it to me then.
Wow.
Okay, and they also offered me to go to Paris Island again to be a drill instructor, and I turned that down twice because I am not going back to Paris Island.
No matter what capacity you were in.
No, not going back there.
Paris Island has been a nightmare for a lot of people, hasn't it?
Oh man. So this friend of mine, we had it all lined up. I took the strength test. I am not bragging. I'm just saying it was nothing.
Wow.
It was 10 pull-ups, 15 or 20 push-ups, 25 or 30 sit-ups. You did circuits of that. You had so many minutes. You had 6 minutes to do it twice. I did it in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. They said nobody was close. So I'm sitting there watching some of these guys, and they're struggling trying to do trying to do one pull-up, and I'm
yes.
just saying this is nuts. So I took my final interview, and got word back that I didn't get accepted into the academy. We're in 1972, and we're getting proportionate ratios.
This is the beginning of all of that.
Racial and gender. So many of a particular race, so
many
of a particular gender.
So they couldn't take you.
Out of about 40 people, they took about 8 white males.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. So I got turned down.
Right.
Well, you don't know about what it is to get drunk till you saw me that night.
Wow.
Because I could not believe it.
Right.
With my military record.
Right.
And the condition I was in.
And the condition you were in. How in the world?
There is no way. Man, I was all pumped up to go.
Ready to go. Excited to go.
I'm
planning on
going to
this.
knock heads, and I'm going to drive that 427 Cobra Jet till it falls apart. I was going to be a cop.
Right.
That's what I was going to be.
And they robbed you of your dream.
Robbed me of that. That was it.
And it put you in a bad state.
Well, then I was living in a little one-room efficiency apartment with the bed that comes down out of the wall,
Right.
I couldn't even afford a one-bedroom apartment.
Oh,
this was an efficiency apartment. And I was losing it. I was missing work. I was working for Western Electric, big telephone company in Baltimore, and I was doing factory work, mass production. But I wasn't going half the time, and I was getting ready to lose my job, and then I ended up losing it. And I was getting ready to be. I was on my second eviction notice to get thrown out of my little hole in the wall.
Wow.
Second eviction notice. And my brother-in-law, who was going to the church where I met my wife.
Right.
Okay. He was going to that church. He said there's a whitewater rafting trip out in the Yuccohany River out in western Maryland. And it was in June. Never forget it. June 21st, as a matter of fact. You don't forget stuff like this.
No, sir.
So he said it cost about $50-some to do it, but there was a guy, and $50 back then was a little change. And, of course, I had no money. I'm getting ready to get thrown out of my little hole.
Right.
So I couldn't go to something like that. He said, well, there's somebody that paid for it, but they won't give him his money back, so there's a free slot.
You can go for free.
Would you like to go? And I said, free works.
Yes.
Free works for me.
Right.
So I went out, and they whitewater raft. They had like 12 or 14 rapids. Some of them were class 3 and 4 rapids. They were pretty serious. It was springtime. That the river was high.
Wow.
Okay. So matter of fact, I got a picture of me in one of those rafts, and the rapid had just taken the paddle out of my hands.
Wow.
And I was powerful, you know. I mean, that was really quite something. So we were going down, and about halfway through, the guide took us off to the side, said, now we're going to eat lunch, and he said, we're going to step out on these rocks. And we had life jackets on. And he said, now I'm going to jump in. I thought, you're going to what? I mean, this is whitewater.
Raging.
Right? Okay,
Raging whitewater.
Yeah. He said, I'm going to jump in, and I'm going to go down there. And he said, the current's going to take me over that way. And he said, I'll meet you all down there. And he jumped in. He said, now you put your hand behind your neck like this. And he said, you put your feet out front. And he said, you can actually steer yourself.
Wow.
Well, I said, one problem with that. I said, what if I jump in there and I hit a rock and now I'm paralyzed the rest of my life? He said, it won't never happen. He said, that water's been coming down there so fast for so long, there's nothing down there to hurt you. I didn't really believe him.
Right.
So there was a couple teenagers there that knew me, and they knew I was in Vietnam and a Marine and all that stuff. And they saw me hedging, so they started mocking me. They started laughing.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Oh, big bad Marine, you got to get wet,
Right, yeah.
So I said, I got to do this. So I went out. Just as I'm sitting here talking to you, the Lord spoke to my heart. I'm standing looking in this foaming,
raging
water. And I'm getting ready to step out. And the Lord said, this is like stepping out on faith. Wow. So I did it. And everything went okay. Later that afternoon, this guy came up to me, come to find out he was a semi-professional fighter and killed a man in the ring.
In the ring.
But he was a Christian, and he was very, very mature Christian. He looked at me after all that was over, and he said, Brother Chuck, he said, Chuck, he said, you spend a lot of time in the gym, don't you? And I said, yeah. He said, if you spent half of that time in the Word of God, he said, you'd be a spiritual giant.
Ooh. Ooh. That's convicting.
Man, God.
It's right to the heart.
Just, man.
Oh, my.
Oh. So, I didn't say anything. So I went back, my little hole in the wall, my 2-week eviction notice sitting on my dresser. And here we had this very, very active weekend. And by the way, stopped off at a gas station, went in the bathroom. One of these characters left a track on the sink. Here's what the devil put in my mind. He said, all they're wanting to do is get you to be like them, and they'll have their name on it so they can get the credit. I walked over. I knew what that track said.
Yeah.
I walked over to that track, and I turned around. Guess what? There was no name on it. There was no church name, no phone number, nobody to contact.
Right.
And I thought, well, you're not right about that.
Yeah, you missed that one.
Yeah.
Devil. Devil's a liar.
So that's what he tried to pull on me, though.
Right.
So I went home. I got up the next morning. God woke me up 6 o'clock in the morning, as sure as I'm sitting here. I couldn't go back to sleep. I was exhausted. I was wore out. And there was a couple of these guys, my brother-in-law included, 3 or 4 other guys that were from the church that were on that trip, and they were men. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
It's so weary. These guys were men, but they weren't cussing. They weren't passing around porno.
Right.
They weren't smoking cigarettes. They weren't drinking liquor.
Yeah.
They were just, I could tell they were manly. They were the real deal, but they didn't need any of that.
They didn't need any of that.
Didn't need any of that. And when I woke up, the first thing came to my mind is I sure would like to be around those guys again one time.
Wow.
I sure would like to see them again. Well, here's the problem. I didn't know where the church was. I didn't know how to get there.
Yeah.
So I knew how to get to my sister's house.
Right.
So I got in my shower. I didn't have any church clothes. I looked like something going to a nightclub. I'm not kidding. I had a bell sleeves. You don't remember bell sleeves. Bell sleeve shirts, bell bottom pants.
Oh, yes.
Brown, white polka dots, and brown pants.
That was the look.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You ready to go clubbing.
That was my clubbing outfit. So
Saturday Night Fever walking into church.
So I went, and my sister and brother-in-law told me later, they said, because they got a pretty long driveway, dirt driveway.
They saw you coming.
And they saw me coming. They said, what is my brother doing here on Sunday morning? I didn't know how to get there, and I wasn't sure when church started, but I knew they went to Sunday school, so I had to get there early. So anyhow, I come rolling in there, and so they said, what are you doing here? And I said, I want to go to church. Now, you are not going to believe this one. I told my sister, because I was so fed up with Christians and church.
Right.
I said, if I ever go back to church, I said, the ceiling's going to fall in. So we get to the church, and it seats about 250 people. It's a good-sized church.
Okay.
And a whole quarter, the back quarter of it, is blocked off because ceiling tiles had fallen down. I said to my sister,
see?
Told you. I said, I told you.
Wow.
That day, that Sunday, the man preached the gospel along with everything else. He made a gospel application. I did not raise my hand. I did not pray. I did not do anything. I listened. So they invited me back to their house for lunch. They lived 25 minutes from me. I went from there and went back to my little hole. Bed still pulled out of the wall. That wasn't made. Why make it? Who cared? Ashtrays full of cigarette butts. Empty liquor bottles laying around. Some other paraphernalia I won't get into.
Understand.
I knelt down by that bed.
Knelt
down by that bed. Just me and God. 4:30 in the afternoon it was.
My goodness.
And I told God about all he knew about me. I said, oh God, I don't deserve anything but that.
My goodness.
And I asked him to forgive me. And I put a little P.S. on the end of it. I said, by the way, if you ever need me for anything, I'm available.
Wow. Immediate surrender.
And I haven't changed that. It hasn't changed.
Oh, what year was that?
That was, let me hang on to myself here. I was 24 years old.
24 years old.
It was 74.
1974. 51 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Working on 52.
Yeah.
My goodness.
So that's how I got saved right there. And I went back to the church that night.
That night.
Never. I haven't been to church on a Sunday night forever. And I said, I got to go back to that place.
Right.
I got to go back to that place because I want to learn more about him.
Immediate discipleship.
Immediately.
Just hungry for more.
I wanted to know more about him. And I went back, and they were all amazed to see me. Wow, it's great to see you, And so I told them, some of my relatives and stuff, my sister and brother-in-law and some of the other people that I got to know. And I said I got saved. They said, would you tell it Sunday morning? And I said, sure. So while we were at it, I got baptized. So
my goodness.
I told them, I said, here's what it is. And I just shared it as best I could. So anyway, I just started. I was working for the Harbor Tunnel at the time, doing road maintenance.
Wow! Down here at the Inner Harbor Tunnel, right down here,
Baltimore Harbor
the one
Tunnel.
we go through all the time.
That one.
How about that?
Doing road maintenance, running an air hammer on bridge dams.
Right.
Driving a front end loader and a backhoe, okay, and a big yellow dump truck,
right?
Wear the orange outfit,
whole 9 yards,
the whole thing, yeah.
And that's what you were doing. That's what you had been doing at that time.
At that time, yeah.
Wow.
So there was a guy that worked with me that went to that church. Okay. Now he had been a motorcycle guy, had big long hair before he got saved,
right?
And now he was all changed,
right?
And he was working with me. And he would come up to me every day at lunchtime with a New Testament. And he'd say, Brother Chuck, he'd say, let me show you what the Lord showed me.
Ooh,
and so I read that, and next day he'd come up with another verse and he'd tell me what it was. I said, how does the Lord showing you all that? I said, I read it. I said, I read through the Bible every day. He said, I read the Bible every day. He said, you need to read the Bible, brother. So when I'd get off of work at 4:30.
Yeah.
Then I had a job working in a hospital in Randallstown, running a floor buffer.
Wow.
Doing janitorial work from 6 to 11. I get off work at the Harbor Tunnel at 4:30. I was trying to get out of debt because I'm getting ready to get thrown out of my little hole in the wall.
Right.
So I'm desperate to get, so I'm doing everything I can.
Laziness wasn't your problem.
Wasn't it? So, but after I get done with that and finally get back home to Glen Burnie, I'd sit down with my Bible before I go to bed.
Start reading
it. Now, can I tell you a story you ain't going to believe?
Yes, sir. Pause right there. Right there. What an amazing testimony, preacher, of the grace of God. And that God reaches further down than we could ever reach up. Mm-hmm. And saves us.
Yes, sir.
It's amazing. Amazing. I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you'll stay tuned. We have more from Brother Chuck Bittner coming up on our next episode. If you're enjoying the Iron Man Men of the Second Mile podcast, please give us a follow on Spotify or a subscribe on the YouTube channel. Both of those actions will help us drive this into the public forum. Your comments can make a big difference, and also the feedback you give us will help us improve in the days ahead. We appreciate you and hope you'll continue to listen to the Iron Men, Men of the Second Mile podcast.